Hey everyone, welcome to another patch notes analysis. My name is Dry Bear and today we'll be covering the Hercules patch on January 9th, 2013, and a lot of really cool changes with it today. They also added the new god Hercules. If you guys have not seen the god reveal for Hercules, I'll put that as an annotation on the screen and also in the description. It seems like a really cool god, and I will be doing a first impressions tomorrow, so I'll be doing that tonight. So look forward for that, and also some gameplays this week. Just covered Hercules and the way I think he should play and all that kind of stuff. In the background, you'll notice that I did a Freya gameplay where someone left in the first 10 seconds. This is just something for you to watch while I talk about the patches. Trying to 2v1 in the lane here against Anubis or Sobek, and it was a challenge. I'll give you that much. I think you'll feel the frustration that I have while playing, while I'm talking about the patches here. To start things off, the stat system has been removed from the game. This is a pretty big change, and I think what they're trying to do is just focus. I mean, they're getting close to a point where they're comfortable releasing, and there's a lot of big projects they have going on. They have spectator mode, they have to focus on esports, and they have to focus on a lot of things, and new gods. They want to hit their 30 god mark, and there's a lot of things they're working on. So I think that stats proved to be a bigger endeavor than they thought it would be. So I'm assuming they're doing is they're just going to remove it for now. They note in the patch notes that future release may introduce alternative methods to allow players to future customize their build. So they definitely want to follow with that idea, the fact that they want to have extra ways to build your character other than just items. So I think they really want to stick with that idea. They just don't feel that it's just too big of a project to deal with right now. So they're probably just going to put this off for now. And I'm kind of glad for this. I think a lot of people were pretty irritated with the stats. The longer I played with it, I didn't really hate it too much. I think it was, if used correctly, it can be quite strong, and they were balancing it, periodically. I mean, every week you would see a different change to the stats as far as cost and increase and how much stats you got. I mean, when it first came out, it was really, really bad, and then it got a little better, and then it got a little better, and then you could buy 10 MP5 for 300 gold, and it went down to 5 MP5 for 300 gold, and they adjusted the stats accordingly. I think if probably another month or so of adjustments of prices and how much stats you get and how easy it is to buy, and then they added the fact that you can only buy stats, one stat per level, so you only buy 20 stat points. So they definitely adjusted that a lot, and I think if they put a lot of more effort into it, it could balance out, but I think they just want to put it off for now. I know a lot of people will be excited about this, and I think it'll be a little bit easier of a transition from beta into the next stage. Or until release, whatever they want to do. So I think this is a good choice, and I think that they'll probably figure out a better system, or maybe just toy with it in the future with extensive testing on a PTS if the game does go live, and make it just a little bit more smooth so people don't have as big of a reaction as they did. Next thing, they're making the game mode of the day available to all players, whether or not you have the gods that are required by the mode. So if you play melee only, you don't have all the gods, you only have like 2 melee gods, or you don't have any gods purchased, or you only have this, you only have that. They're gonna make it available to you, so whatever the game mode is, you can play the game mode, and I think that's a good idea just because it makes it more enjoyable, and it's something that new players can hop into, and it's probably a good way to not only advertise the game mode of the day, but also let new players test out new characters. If there's a game mode that includes a character you want to try before you purchase it, it allows players to go ahead and try that out, and that's a really good idea there. They're also making it so ranked conquest matches are now restricted to level 30 players. I think this is a really good idea, but I think the main step that I'm looking forward to is the resetting of the rating system, just because it is so saturated and inflated. I personally don't play ranked anymore just because it's so messed up right now. It's not very enjoyable. I don't think it's any different than playing normal. It's just there's just more people that are yelling at each other. So I think there needs to be a reset, and there needs to be other things that go into rank conquest matches, but definitely restricting to level 30 players is a good idea. It's a very good idea. I think level 15 is it's a little bit too soon, and there's a lot of players in there that are inexperienced or don't know how to play every role, or don't understand certain parts about the game, or don't even understand all the gods that they're facing, so they get surprised by certain abilities or certain ganks or anything like that. I think it's just too soon. I think you need to be playing ranked at 30, where you have as much exposure to the game as you can, so that you don't have to be surprised by anything or be lacking in any area, so you can definitely contribute to your team in every possible way. And they actually added live spectating with a built-in time delay, controls, pausing, speed, all that kind of stuff. And I'm super excited. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to be doing with this as soon as I get a hold of it. this is accessible to a small test group only for now, but they're going to be releasing it soon, hopefully. I'm really excited to be doing this, and the fact that they have the built-in controls means that they're going to be using replay systems and stuff like that, and I'm really excited about this, and I'm really hoping that once they sort out a lot of the issues, they'll be able to make this available to a lot of people, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure there's a lot of people that are waiting for spectator mode just like me to get a hold of it. There was a lot of issues with it before. They actually had to cut off access to a lot of people. They had to stop giving it out just because there were so many issues. So I'm glad that they're focusing on this and fixing that up. And then a few minor changes to Conquest mode. The non-buff camps that you see at the bottom closest to the each side of the map, the bases, those that don't have buffs, they have a shorter cooldown, so they're going to be respawning every 100 seconds down from 180 seconds. It's a pretty big reduction, over a minute of cooldown or respawn time. So this means that you can farm those more often. That's definitely something that people should be working into their rotations and focusing on. I know a lot of people, as far as the meta goes now, you definitely want to start out at these buff camps. I mean, you only really need 2 people to take them down quite easily, and 3 people if you want to get the mid involved. It's very easy to get these camps down, get extra gold and experience for the game, and you actually don't miss any lane minions if you do it at the beginning too. So that extra cooldown timer or reduction in respawn time really allows people to utilize that more often. They also changed the health on the larger neutral spawn Furies down to 700, so it's down, so actually easier to kill too. So that's really cool. The Conquest, Practice, and Joust, the gold earned from lane minions has been reduced by 1 gold per minion. It's not really a huge deal. Even I think when the towers kill them, you get 2 or 3 gold, so maybe that'll be a problem. But the rest of the time, it's in the double digits as far as gold earned. So that's not a huge deal. So I don't see that affecting too much. The new icon on play screen now indicates which game modes are eligible for a first win of the day bonus. This is really cool. I don't think a lot of people are utilizing this very much. The fact that you get extra favor for each game mode that you play the first time of the day. So definitely adding some visual feedback to that will allow people to utilize that more often. And also reduce the queue times for other game modes that people aren't playing either. Also, while in a match, when you type in the chat, you will have your god name next to it. This is analogous to other MOBAs that have the same thing, same effect, so you don't have to memorize people's names. You can actually see, it'll say Dry Bear and in parentheses Freya, so that lets people know that I'm playing Freya that game or anything like that. They also improved the god screen, a few more changes there. I think they're just making it more aesthetically pleasing. It looks like they're moving closer and closer to release. The in-game browser has a technical upgrade, so it loads pages faster. Currently, if you try to open up the browser in-game, it pauses for like 10 to 15 seconds first when you open it, so there's a big delay before you can utilize it. I personally don't use it at all, just because I have 2 monitors and there's no reason to. But that's good that they're improving that. That's a good thing there. They fixed a bug in the item store, which wrong recommended items will be displayed, and I think the recommended items aren't that great anyway. I don't think anyone should be using, even new players shouldn't be using the recommended items. They're awful. And I think there should be some kind of implementation later in the future. This is kind of like a small thing, but maybe they should implement a system where people can make their own recommended pages, and I know they're going to do that. But what I intend to say here is that they should implement the fact that they could. They have it in Heroes New Earth now, where you could easily put up their own recommended pages, and then all the popular pages are put in the game itself. It's kind of like going to a build site like SMITE Fire, where you see all the builds and then people vote on them, and the highest voted one is on the top. It's just like that, except it's in game, so it's kind of like an in-game SMITE Fire. So if you guys ever played Heroes New Earth, that's in there. It's actually a really cool system. I do enjoy it a lot. Minor bugs, practice mode, all that kind of stuff. They also changed the maximum allowable stats. Even though stats are gone, the maximum allowable earnable stats have been adjusted. The maximum health went up by about 500, so it's at 5,500 now. The maximum HP5 and MP5 went way down, down to 100 from 150, so that's like a 33% reduction. The life steal maximum went up, which is interesting, so a lot of characters are going to get affected by that, especially... So I think Kali as well. Kali can hit that cap pretty easily. Physical protection, magical protection is at 325 now. And then the ground speed maximum was way up. Now it's 1,000 ground speed increase versus 600 what it was before. The Aegis Amulet cooldown has been increased to 120 seconds. This is pretty huge. I think a lot of people were utilizing the Aegis Amulet, myself included. I started buying 2 ability items early in the game, so you buy like an Aegis Amulet or a Sprint. I mean, it's pretty hard to survive without the active items like Aegis Amulet or Sprint or beads, and I think this really will help Ares a bit too, especially in the early game. People that buy early game Aegis Amulet, 90-second cooldown on the Aegis Amulet means that you can pretty much have it active for every single activation of Ares ultimate in the laning phase and into the early game as well, or into the early mid game. It's just a pain in the ass for him. They reintroduced Rage into the game, which is awesome, and that this item's been in and out. They put it in, put it out, put it in, put it out, put it in, put it out. And it's actually a very strong item, and it works with really well with a lot of characters. So I'm wondering what's going to go on with that. But definitely, if you guys haven't been utilizing it, it's a very strong item. So pick it up on a lot of good characters like Artemis or Bakasura, who can utilize the crit chance for Artemis and the attack speed, or the attack speed, especially for Bakasura, is pretty strong. The Executioner, which currently had some problems with it, where it wasn't scaling properly off of subsequent hits as far as reduction in protection. The Executioner, Spear of the Magus, and Demonic Grip now scale off of total protection instead of base protection. So if there's any bonuses like Guan Yu's passive or Anubis's new passive or anything like that, it's going to scale off of total, which kind of makes it better. I guess there was a lot of problems with that. They were forcing it to be kind of a broken thing. Hydra's Lament, the passive now works on total physical power, which is good because it really wasn't that great of an item before. And I guess I didn't realize what was so bad about it until I realized that it wasn't working properly. And it also shows the correct passive. It used to only show the Polynomicon icon as far as on your buff bar. And finally, we get into the god changes. There's a lot of cool things here and some things that raise some concerns for me, so we'll see how it goes here. Let's start out with Anubis, whose passive got changed. His abilities now steal physical protection along with magical protection, so now he's a little bit more tanky, and this plays into his role a lot. A lot of Anubis players will build tanky early on and even some point into the mid game, just because the fact that he has to stand still for his ultimate and his Locust Swarm means that he's very vulnerable to skill shots and also to damage output, and even to clear entire waves without using Grasping Hands. You have to use Locust Swarm, which puts you in a bit of a pickle. So he's definitely one of those characters that builds tanky, at least in a little bit. So now he'll steal protections along with that. And the durations has been increased from 3 seconds to 5 seconds. And also his passive now grants him 30% reduction to crowd control durations, so I don't expect to see, and this doesn't stack with other ones or other items that have the same unique passive. So the reinforced boots that have that as well. I don't expect any Anubis players who aren't going for the tanky build to be going for reinforced boots, just because his passive gives him that and it won't stack anyway. Ao Kuang, this is an interesting change. His Slither, the additional movement speed based off of how many minions or gods that are near you has been removed, so it's now just a static amount. The focus contribution has been increased from 35% to 50%. So now instead of getting extra bonus movement speed from nearby enemy gods or minions, it was originally, I think you had to have 5 or 6 minions to get the maximum, or if one god was near you, you'd get the maximum movement speed increase. But this is now based solely off of focus. The more focus you have, the faster you move. It's not based on minions around you or gods around you. And he's also immune to slows for 1 second after activation. This is an interesting change. I think this will play pretty well into Ao Kuang. I think having a static amount of movement speed, something you can rely on based on, whether, you're not really going to be using Slither when no one's around unless you're coming out of the well. So it's not going to be a huge change there, but the fact that it goes up based on focus means that a lot of Ao Kuang players might be going for focus now. And it also will, the fact that he's immune to slows for 1 second after activation, I think a lot of people that play Ao Kuang a lot will be able to utilize that very effectively. If you see a Ninetales coming out from a Bastet, right when it hits, you can pop the Slither right then, or if a slow comes off from Grasping Hands and you're on the edge of it, you can hit it as you step out of it. You'll be immune to it and stuff like that. So there's definitely a skill set that can come out of that, so I'm really excited about that. Razor Claws from Bastet, the physical power contribution has been decreased from 35% to 25%. I think this was necessary because Bastets that scaled really quickly. Now obviously this isn't huge for early game, just because it's the contribution from items, but late game Bastets can do a lot of damage with Razor Claws. A lot of damage. I've seen it do nearly a third to 1/2 your HP in just one ability, which is very strong for physical carry who's already doing a lot with basic attacks. And then the Ninetales, the focus scaling now properly functions, so there's a problem there. It used to be where the lasting, it would last 3 seconds independent of focus, so the focus scaling wasn't working properly. It was actually working as it did originally. So if you guys noticed that a Bastet who hit all damage was slowing you for a very long time, that's what that was. Bakasura, the passive Insatiable Hunger. Now they did a few things with Bakasura. I'm excited about this because Bakasura kind of got shafted pretty hard by the introduction of focus. I mean, he was pretty poor quality. I mean, he got dropped down to like really low tier, and he just he took the blunt end of the stick pretty much. So what they did is they made it so his passive no longer scales off of focus. So you'll get the attack speed bonus from, it used to be 2%. Without focus. So it used to be 4% with before focus was introduced. You can be with 5 stacks, you can do 20% increased attack speed. It's now, when focus got introduced, it went down to 2%. So now focus no longer scales the attack speed. It's just static 3%. So it took the middle of the road there. Instead of 2% or 4% with full focus, it's 3% all the time. So you get 3 times 5 would be 15% increased attack speed with that. But also when you kill a minion to get a stack of insatiable hunger, you get 5% run speed for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So you'll have 25% run speed increase and also 15% increased attack speed when you have 5 stacks of insatiable hunger. This means that the movement speed was removed from Eat Minion. So Eat Minion no longer gives you run speed, it comes from your passive. So when you get a lot of last hits, you get increased attack speed, increased run speed from your passive, and none of this is affected by focus. You'll get a static amount of run speed and attack speed from your passive. And they also bumped up the Eat Minion base healing from that, and it no longer scales off of focus. So Eat Minion is kind of close to what it used to be, so it's very, very powerful again. So it's definitely something you can rely on. So you get healing that doesn't scale off of focus, and the base amount got moved up, so it should be more utilizable now. And then eating a minion now gives him a buff to magical and physical protection, and this is something that Bakasura really, really needed. I mean, he fell off the earth. He was kind of pobre Bakasura pretty much. So definitely some good changes there. You get some Eat Minion is back to close to what it used to be. You also get some protections from eating a minion as well. So definitely putting points into Eat Minion is a viable option again. I don't think it was before without getting focus. Cupid, the Heart Bomb. This is interesting. The physical power was increased. The contribution from items for physical power on Cupid's Heart Bomb was increased from 60% to 100%. So now his Heart Bomb will do more damage scaling off of items. And they also made it so his second explosion wasn't doing proper damage. So that's a big change there. It's a lot of more damage output from Cupid. And speaking of damage output, this one kind of concerns me. Freya, they made it so when you have Pulse, her 1, and then irradiate 1 and then pulse 2. When you have them activated together, the damage is no longer half. Now this is scaring me because if you guys have been looking at Freya recently, people have been trying out new builds like full magic damage builds. The introduction of the demonic grip made Freya a lot more effective early on, and the fact that demonic grip is now fixed to do proper penetration or proper reduction in protections, and also the fact that Pulse and Irradiate activated together no longer has the damage, means that if Freya gets close to you, can activate both of them, she's going to do some pretty serious damage. And I mean, I was playing a game yesterday where I almost got one hit by a Freya who had some really good items. I think Deathbringer, and then some really high damage. And it's just, I mean, if they go attack speed route or even if they go full damage route, Freya's can put out some really good damage here, and I think this is going to be scary, and I'll probably have to do some testing here. We'll see in a couple days if anyone tries to utilize this to its fullest. So this kind of scares me, the fact that Pulse and Irradiate don't have the damage. I guess the fact that you can, I mean, you could do the same amount of damage. Most people will separate their Pulse and Irradiate activations apart, so that you activate Pulse to get close to them, getting the slow damage out there, and then when Pulse is on cooldown, you would pop Irradiate and get close and do some extra damage. So the fact that they can activate it together, maybe you'll do the same amount of damage, you'll just do it faster. So that's less time. If they're activated at the same time, you can actually get into melee range. Maybe Freya's will start going for Gem of Isolation or Creeping Curse just to stay in melee range and activate those both together, and then just go for basic attacks after that. So that this will be interesting. Definitely condenses the amount of damage she'll do into a shorter period. So this isn't a buff in overall damage, but it just makes it happen faster, which kind of concerns me because Freya's can put out some pretty serious damage. The next thing is Kali's Blood Lash. The physical power contribution has been reduced from 150% to 110%. This kind of needed to be happen. Kali hasn't gotten a lot of attention because she's not as viable in a competitive setting. She can be utilized very effectively in the game, and she's definitely a very powerful god. She can put out some very good damage. However, her teamfight prowess isn't that great. She doesn't really contribute very much to a team fight, so she doesn't really get a lot of attention there. But her Blood Lash was doing a lot of damage, and it does a lot of damage early on as well. And late game, it can scale pretty effectively. I mean, you can do some pretty heavy chunks of damage with Blood Lash. So the contribution has been reduced, and that's pretty good. And then the Frenzy now breaks all CC on Kali upon activation. There were a couple CCs that you couldn't break, like if you were in stun, you couldn't pop the frenzy during the stun, but if you popped it and then someone stunned you, it would not work because you were immune during the duration of frenzy. But now if you pop it at any time, even if you're stunned or CC'd in some way, it'll pop that off you and then make you immune. So this is really good. This is kind of like an aspect that made it more logistically challenging. You had to be prepared ahead of time to use Kali. Sometimes you can get caught before even... like if an Anubis mummified you and you got stunned after that and you got popped down, you wouldn't really have the opportunity to frenzy away from that. You'd have to kind of prepare ahead of time. Loki's Vanish, the duration that he's invisible got increased by 1 second. So it was 3 seconds, now it's 4 seconds. So it'll be invisible for longer. And this one... this one kind of scares me. Aimed Strike, the physical power contribution has been increased from 80%, which is what it was yesterday, and up to 150%. This is nearly double the physical power contribution for Aimed Strike, which means late game Loki is going to be terrifying. A lot of damage comes out from Aimed Strike and Assassinate. So a lot of damage can come out of that. A lot of scary, scary damage from Loki. So I think late game Loki is going to be a much bigger threat. So there's going to be some terrifying changes there. Odin's Ring of Spears got a bug fixed. There was a lot of problems with the Ring of Spears. There was actually one where Hell's 3 wasn't working properly inside of it, and also the big bug that got addressed now was they would cancel unintentionally. So what would happen is you'd see an Odin ultimate. You put down the Ring of Spears and all of a sudden they'd fall over. It's like they didn't really stick in the ground completely. They would just hit the ground and fall over immediately. That was a bug, so that's fixed now. Some changes to Vamana, and I'm glad for this. I think there was a little bit too much of a change for focus for Vamana, and it made Vamana a little bit less of a tank. So what happened is they made the amount of physical protection converted to physical power 10%, so this doesn't increase with focus. So now his physical protection to physical power is higher. It was originally a lot lower, so focus kind of shafted him there. And then also he's immune to CC during his ultimate. He used to be able to CC, and if you guys ever saw Hades use use a fear on him or use a monkey ultimate, you see a giant baby waving his hands in the air and running around. It was pretty scary, but he actually is immune to CC now. And also the amount of regen per tick has been increased from 2% to 5% and no longer increases with focus. So if you guys ever played Vamana after the introduction of focus and wondered why you were still dying when your ultimate was activated, it's because you didn't have any focus. So focus affected the amount of regen that he had per tick during his ultimate, which means that his health didn't go up that fast at all. 2% wasn't very much. 5% is just enough for it to be noticeable, so that's kind of the amount it needed to be. So now it's no longer affected with focus, and it's just the static 5% that it used to be. So Vamana's ultimate is back to the prowess that it used to be, the crazy regeneration, can't kill him when he's ulting kind of thing, and also his physical protection to physical power is back up to the original amount. So I think Vamana's going to be a lot more powerful. People are still playing him. Still utilizing him well, but he kind of lost some attention just because his ultimate wasn't working too great, and you need a lot of focus, and it's getting a lot of focus kind of has to sacrifice a lot of other things, and I think that's intentional, but this will allow him to kind of come back from that. And then Shibalanke, his basic attack was unintentionally shorter. What happened was every ranged physical carry had a range of 55. Shibalanke had 50, so it was a little bit shorter. Not a lot of players noticed this, but definitely something that is noticeable if you played on her for a bunch of games and then all of a sudden you switch Shibalanke and you're wondering why you can't shoot as far. It's because his range was a little bit shorter on accident, so that's fixed now. His passive now grants an additional kill stack when he kills someone who's stunned. So if you get a kill during Darkest of Nights, you'll get 1 stack of his passive. But if you kill someone during Darkest of Nights while they're stunned, you'll get 2 stacks. So definitely a very short window, something that kind of allows his passive to stack up quicker. I don't think a lot of people actually do stack it up all the way in most games, just because you have to get a kill during the ultimate. But that's definitely something that's a little bit cooler. The Rising Jaguar, the bonus damage against poison enemies has been reduced down to 30% from 50%, which means that his Rising Jaguar Poison Darts combination is going to be a little less effective. This is scaling off the damage. The damage is still going to be pretty good, but it's not going to be as good. It got reduced a little bit, and it was a very, very powerful combination, especially early on in the game. And then enemies are no longer stunned during the respawn of his ultimate, which is Darkest of Night. So if you spawned during the ultimate, you'd be stunned right away automatically, which is a small change, but it's a bug fix. And then the passive no longer procs with Vampiric Shroud and Hydra's Lament. So that's another bug change there. So that's going to be it for the Hercules patch notes analysis, guys. A lot of really cool changes and some slightly frightening ones, but that's going to remain to be seen in the game. So we'll see how those changes take effect. I'm really excited the fact that spectator mode is progressing. I'm hoping to get access to that soon. And I'm also really excited about Hercules. I remember playing him a lot and having a lot of fun with him. I'm sure he kind of fits my playstyle really well. So definitely look forward to some Hercules gameplays from me. And also, that's pretty much it. So thanks for tuning in. My name is Drybear. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in my next video.